Hi, I'm Matt Hernandez. This is Book Chat with You. In this episode, and most every episode, I want to have a conversation with you about literature. I think it's just vitally important. So today we're looking again at this book, San Francisco Thrillers. It's just a bunch of, what do you call it? Pulp fiction, noir, hard-boiled, I don't know. But this is the second story I've looked at here, and yeah, I think it's a good story. Maybe I should tell you a bit of a synopsis before some of my other thoughts and stuff. So this story today is by Dashiell Hammett, Flypaper. The story he wrote after this was The Maltese Falcon. I have not read the story, and I have not seen the movie. Maybe I should watch the movie. I might even have the movie. Before this, I also covered Bill Bronzini's It's a Lousy Life. I enjoyed both these stories. I may have liked the previous one a bit more and a bit more to talk about because it's just somebody with just bad luck. And with this one, it's about another unnamed detective. I don't know what's with the whole unnamed detective thing, but it's kind of fun. And the detective works for a detective agency, and they are asked to sort of follow up on a young woman named Sue Hambleton. She left home when she became an adult, and she's just been keeping company with gangsters ever since. Her father's rich, so, that plays a small part of the story. And so one day she kind of disappears, and the detective agency can't really find her. They try to find her in New York and Chicago. And then one day, about a year later, she seems to kind of turn up in San Francisco. It's not, well, the unnamed detective, he works with another guy they call the Old Man. The Old Man, they receive a telegram saying, hey, please send me money. I really need it right now. So the unnamed detective goes to that address. A guy, Joe Wales, he enters his apartment. And then he's there, and he asks for the money. He asks a woman to go and pose as Sue Hambleton. Well, as you can tell, the word pose, right? I mean, it's not her. And so they follow this trail. Then it turns out that Sue Hambleton has died from arsenic flypaper. Now, this is one of the things about a story like this is that, you do learn a little bit, right? And of course, this came from a very specific genre, and I guess it's supposed to have a flair of realism, but I don't know. I mean, did people really talk like how they kind of talk in this kind of story? But I didn't know what arsenic flypaper was. I had to kind of look it up. I didn't know. So she's died from arsenic flypaper, and then so instead of just finding out where she's at, now it's become a bit of a murder investigation. So the unnamed detective, he goes to follow back with Joe Wales again. Whenever he goes back to Joe Wales, a guy named Babe McClure, he pops up out of nowhere, out the window, and he shoots Joe Wales. From there, there begins the chase on Babe McClure. They chase him down, they find him. And I feel the prose to me was a bit confusing because whenever you're in the middle of a scene, it's pretty easy to follow, but then it's like, oh, he returns to the detective agency, and then it's like, oh, we just got a hint, a clue on where Babe is at. And so the unnamed detective, the main character, and another guy, I'd have to double check his name, embarrassingly enough, they go to where Babe is at. But then Babe's kind of crossing the street, and then he comes to the car door to get into the taxi. So they leave and they confront him. And it all kind of happens in a way where it's like, I wonder if the writer right there had a little bit of trouble connecting how to go from this scene to really make this scene happen. Then there's a cool fight, and then we speak, and then the unnamed detective, our main character, speaks to Joe in the hospital. And then from there, the detective and the old man speak about what their theories might have been about if Sue Hambleton had if she, killed herself, or if she was killed by Joe. But Joe, he fraudulently wrote the letter to Sue's father because Sue's father's rich and he was hoping to get the money. Now, It's kind of interesting how whenever I look at these, how sometimes there's like two stories back to back that have some kind of connection together, some element of that. And I kind of like that in a sense. I mean, the last story was quite dark with it, but what's with this and these stories? And it's not just me and the last author, Isabel Agenda. She, calls herself a self-proclaimed feminist, and yet there's this element of women like being in love with somebody who's like dangerous, and it's somehow it leads to their own misery or death or whatever. And here even a potential suicide, and it's like, did Joe kill Sue Hambleton that way he could just try to take as much of the money for himself from her father? Or did Sue accidentally kill herself, because it seems like the theory that she was going with was to create an immunity to arsenic? So that way, if she ate food and she laced it with arsenic, she would live, somebody else would die. And if the police came and they, I don't know, did a blood test on her, she would turn out to be to have this as well. Like, it would seem like there was also an attempt on poisoning on her. So how could she poison somebody else if she also has this poisoning herself, right? So yeah, I'm going to read pages 39 to 40 because it's about the best place that I can think of where we can converse about this story. And I had to think about it a little bit. There was another part I liked a bit more, but I want these to be conversations that we could have together. And some stories provide it easier than others. So I'll try to show this on the screen here on my right, your left, I think. Buying it? I don't know. I haven't seen any since I was a kid. Nobody uses Flypaper here in San Francisco anyway. There aren't enough flies. Somebody used it here, I said, on Sue. Sue? He jumped so fast that the table squeaked under him. Yeah. Murdered yesterday morning. Arsenic Flypaper. Both of them? He asked incredulously. Both of who? Her and her father. Yeah. He put his chin far down on his chest and rubbed the back of one hand with the palm of the other. Then I am in a hole, he said slowly. That's what? I cheerfully agreed. Want to try walking yourself out of it? Let me think. I let him think, listening to the tick of the clock while he thought. Thinking brought drops of sweat out on his gray-white face. Presently he sat straight, wiping his face with a fancily colored handkerchief. I'll talk, he said. I've got to talk now. Sue was going to ditch Babe. She and I were going away. She here, I'll show you. He put his hand in his pocket and held out a folded sheet of thick note paper to me. I took it and read, Dear Joe, I can't stand this much longer. I've simply got to go soon. Babe beat me again tonight. Please, if you really love me, let's make it soon. Sue. The handwriting was a nervous woman's, tall, angular, and piled up. That's why I made the play for Hambleton's Grant, he said. I've been shutting up my uppers for a couple of months, and when that letter came yesterday, I just had to raise dough somehow to get her away. She wouldn't have stood for tapping her father, though, so I tried to swing it without her knowing. When did you see her last? Day before yesterday. The day she mailed that letter. Only I saw her in the afternoon. She was here, and she wrote it last night. Babe suspected what you were up to. We didn't think he did. I didn't know. I don't know. He was jealous as hell all the time, whether he had any reason to be or not. How much reason did he have? Wales looked me straight in the eye and said, Sue was a good kid. I said, well, she's been murdered. He didn't say anything. Day was darkening into evening. I went to the door and pressed the light button. I didn't lose sight of Holy Joe Wales while I was doing it. As I took my finger from the button, something clicked at the window. The click was loud and sharp. I looked at the window. A man crouched there on the fire escape, looking through the glass and lace curtain. He was a thick-featured, dark man whose size identified him as Babe McClure. The muzzle of the black automatic was touching the glass in front of him. He tapped the window with it to catch our attention. he had our attention. I kind of picked this part of the dialogue because maybe I could have picked another spot, but I like how the detective can sort of elicit making others give him a response. You know, I mean, I wish I could say that I was good at reading people, but I mean, I think at times I have been. And I think the nature of being married, and I think like my wife, she wants to overanalyze everything, This person made this facial expression like this. And I mean, if you're just listening, I mean, maybe you couldn't see what facial expressions I would mimic to make. Not that I'm making any, but just these like, oh, this person made this look. But I like that in this, that there's these moments where he's vague and he knows what he's doing and he's good at it. And I mean, I don't do this thing where people are like intentionally vague because I think wives and policemen pulling people over on like routine traffic stops do this, where you could pull somebody over and then it's like, do you know why I pulled you over today? It's just like this vague thing. But nevertheless, I do like that. And I don't know, I'd like to hear from you about, could you do that? Are you able to elicit such speech from people? Can you read people well? I think it's an interesting topic. But I mean, if you can find other things to chat about in the story, I would love to hear it. I should have said this earlier in the recording, but down below, I will include a audio recording from YouTube of the story. And I haven't seen any other kind of PDF or anything like that online, but that's about it. And I do like that section. I do like how the detective handles some of this dialogue. And I wonder how much realism there is inside of this because Dashiell Hammett, the writer, did work a little bit in this kind of industry and this type of thing. And I wonder how much of that there is in this. And the more I read this, I can see what the crooks are trying to do, their kind of deceptions, their kind of games. And I do think it's all quite fascinating and how well the detective can read through parts of it. Well, this video's been probably long enough, and I'd love to hear what you think, so thank you. Bye.